Welcome, weary hero! Come in and pull up a chair by the fireplace. Grab and enjoy a tankard or two of your favorite brew. Listen to your fellow Nephalem trade stories of their journeys throughout Sanctuary. Welcome, hero, to the Scythe and Shield.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Scythe and Shield Rebirthed. Solo show, no guests, a week late, and what are we going to talk about? BlizzCon! Yes, the infamous BlizzCon prediction show, and I feel, even though I apologize, sorry, that I am a week late on the show. The schedule damn near didn't come out along with the floor map and everything, and as of this recording on Tuesday before the con, we still don't know who the closing band is. So very interesting times for releasing information. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about briefly about recent leaks that is, as well as, you know, comparison last year to this year, so to speak, and what I feel is going to be announced briefly, predicting wise for this BlizzCon, and hopefully impart some closing advice for how to view this year's BlizzCon versus, you know, just going for the hype on the announcements, but how to interpret the information, what to actually look for, and how to gauge where we are if D4 is announced, where we are in the development, and how not to get too overhyped by the time we see it. Somehow, someway, we're still disappointed in the end. Avoid the necromancer debacle where, like, yeah, cool, new thing, and somehow we're disappointed because we did it to ourselves. So with that, a couple of quick programming notes beforehand. I will be arriving at BlizzCon this Wednesday, 30th, and I'll be departing on the 5th, Tuesday. So there won't be a show next week, but since I will be part of the Calm Before the Storm / Wellhead Party opening panel, which is just a general Blizzard discussion, they have kindly allowed us to, participants that is, to take the footage as long as we maintain the branding, opening, and intro, and we can use it on our personal podcast, the full clip. So I may do that for the first show back, just to let you see that, and then give us all a little bit of time, and the community, as well as myself, to figure out what we're going to do with the show, with what information we have. I feel that's better because I can have a better prepared show, potentially have a guest or two who were there, or maybe staying with myself and a few others in the room for BlizzCon. I have a really good sense of like how they reacted, how I reacted, and all that good stuff. And I think that's pretty much it. So what I want to do is I want to touch on I want to say what everyone considers the debacle of last year, what I expected going into last year and how everything worked out, and how the last year I've been trying to figure out and not appease the people that are just straight up angry, but try to figure out why I was angry, and maybe try to come out with a better understanding of what Blizzard may be doing going in the future with this year's BlizzCon. Now, last year with Diablo Immortal, we all know what it was. There's no need to lament and go into that for another 15-20 minutes about that. It was what it was. And it was only a couple weeks ago, I think I finally hit on why it was so bad. Such a negative reaction from the community. And we can excuse it simply like, oh, it's a mobile game, as their premier showing off at a mainly PC convention, PC gaming convention, and Blizzard somehow lost their audience and is only catering to the Chinese. And while there may be little tidbits of truth to that, I think the whole argument is hogwash. Because we have to remember, in life, we can only control how we react. When things are done to us, they're already done. So at that point, we can only control how we react. We can best prepare ourselves, but that in itself is figure out how would we react to a hypothetical situation and what we would do to best accommodate that hypothetical situation. So, how did we react? Quite poorly, I think. Because even though in the moment it may have seemed justified, and I will not argue the justification for people feeling upset or feeling angry, as a person of the community and also in the community, I just didn't like how we portrayed ourselves, because unfortunately it was the perfect storm, kind of like primal ancient Parthon defenders. Like, it was like on another level, little order of magnitude. Because the way I figured it out was, if you were someone who loved D2, didn't love D3, and you were expecting a D2 remaster, you were disappointed, and there was nothing for the current game. If you were someone who was expecting the infamous Druid DLC, or something really big for Diablo 3, or an expansion, none of that happened, and there was no information for Diablo 3. If you were someone like me, who saw the comics, the books, the supposed, at that time, leak of a Netflix series, and how all that was seemingly to build up hype and try to broaden the audience, try to bring people back into the game for what seemed like an inevitable Diablo 4 announcement, and then it didn't happen. And again, there was nothing for the current game. We were upset. So it's not that it upset everybody. It upset everybody for multiple reasons. So, multiple reasons, multiple problems, you could say. And that's how I rationalize it. That's how I was able to empathize with other people who were otherwise screaming their head off. But the whole memes, the question, our red t-shirt guy, and I say our because I don't want to offend the WoW t-shirt guy, because he legitimately called out Chris Metzen and said, like, this is wrong, and he agreed. So they're not in the same caliber whatsoever. I just feel like we basically reacted wrong. And I feel at this point, I could very easily defend Diablo Immortal, because while we don't know the microtransactions model, and that's a problem, I view this a year later, we don't know what the microtransaction model is. And we don't know how many acts, and we don't know all the skills, and there's a lot of information we just don't know. That may just be plopped all on us at once, and then we have to decipher for ourselves at that moment, which is not good from a communication standpoint. But for what we knew and what we were able to play last year, it was a good game. It held up to holding what Diablo, maybe the Diablo 3 version of Diablo, but nonetheless, it was still very much a Diablo game. Still very much the same kind of aesthetics, the same kind of play style, same kind of action that we were used to. And my biggest praise for the game was, and I say this time after time when someone asks me about Immortal, is you had to look no other than what they were doing with the wizard skills. Now, the whole AoE ability, the ball, I call it the ball lightning, or Diablo ball lightning, because it's basically the same skill Diablo has in Heroes of the Storm, where 8 balls of lightning shoot out radially and then come back towards the caster, but come back to you where you are at that time. So if you combo that skill with teleport, you can have all the balls of lightning come back to where you are and go straight through all the enemies and smack an elite. So, and that's just no runes, no gear, just the base skills, and that's huge. I don't think people give that enough credit. And even more so, I think something even more impressive as far as skill interaction is concerned is, again, with the wizards, Ice Crystal and Ray of Frost. because the ice crystal, when you place it, does pulse damage and slows enemies within around it, and then it explodes, dealing damage at the end. Simple. Ray of Frost, we know what Ray of Frost is. Channeled frost ability, slows the first enemy it hits, if you kill it, goes to the next one, etc. But when you combine them, when you hit the Ray of Frost on the ice crystal, not only is the ice crystal slowing in AoE, not only when it explodes it'll do damage, but it naturally fractures the Ray of Frost, and the Ray of Frost goes from a single target to a multi-target ability. And that's just through native skill interaction. Again, no runes, no legendary powers, no sets, just the skills. And I beat this to death because that's something we need in Diablo 4. This is what we need to get that supposedly depth of customization, and also ability to make more creative builds, to have more unique builds, let alone if they can do a GR system or a rift system or a new system we haven't done yet. We just need that at the base, because then the legendary powers and sets, etc., can further augment from that. Essentially, the tree of possibilities, the true tree of abilities, with many branches representing different builds and many other offshoots from there, is possible. But you have to start with the skills, because if the skills aren't good, then you're just balancing by item, which is unfortunately what they're doing with Diablo 3. But it's because that's the only way that you really can do it with Diablo 3. And that's what we're living with right now. That's why power creep in this game currently. So if we can get back to where the skills are the true nature of the class, and gear doesn't have to be so overpowered, it just further augments a good base of skills for a class, then the fantasy is brought down. We're not so overpowered. There's a sense of dread that we can still die. We have to plan. We have to strategize. It turns off the brain dead builds that we have now, and it gets you more involved in the game. These are all very good things, and Immortal's doing it. But it may be cast aside because it's a mobile game. And that's why I get annoyed, personally. Because the things that we don't know, people are crucifying the game because they assume they know. And for the things we do know, aren't being given enough credit because it's a mobile game. So, moving forward to this year's BlizzCon, it seems like I've been joking that they're going to come on stage, they're going to open up their hand with 4 fingers, and they're going to go, first thing, Diablo Immortal. Second thing, Diablo 2. Third thing, here's something for Diablo 3, and, I wonder what that fourth thing is. Roll that footage. But it very well could be. Because if you've been in the loop at all, there was recently a Bank of America statement where some financial people are talking about this, and it seems like financial people doing what they do best, speculating based off information they just recently saw, and they're just trying to report it. So I don't put too much weight in the Bank of America statement, because it's like, oh, people, they have to know and everything. I'm like, no, they have to know outlooks. They don't need to know secret company stuff. I mean, that's 2 different levels. You don't every time you buy stock in Google or Apple, you don't get an NDA sent to you saying, hey, this is what we're doing, but you're sworn to secrecy that you can't tell anyone. It doesn't work that way. And that would actually, when you really think about it, insider trading laws would be really, really bad if that was the case. I mean, think about it, folks. Critical thinking. We need more of it. So I don't put too much stock in that. However, the first major one was the German magazine that basically stipulated the Art of Diablo book, who had artwork spanning from Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and Diablo 4. Each one of them were spelled out, Roman numerals, everything. And it looked pretty legitimate, but, you know, in the age of Photoshop, anything could be faked almost. Excuse me. So, that was the first one. And then just recently, we almost had like a 1-2 bang of, as I said previously, that Bank of America statement. And the leaked page of the Lilith artwork from the Book of Diablo. See how this is kind of, this rumor or leak is supposedly building on itself. You have this German website, German magazine, sorry, stipulating Diablo 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now this Lilith page from the book clearly states, third paragraph, almost first line, says Lilith's reemergence in Diablo 4, and we're all going, excuse me? And then we're all going like, how did this get out? And then I personally looked at the artist who was credited for the image of Lilith, and it checks out. He's the artist has done previous work for Overwatch, and worked for Blizzard for 11 years, and is now working on Riot on secret stuff, as he says on his Twitter profile. So that checks out. And then when you think about Lilith and how that was called out, that's one aspect. The credibility of the artist that's called out, like, you know, could have picked any random name, but that checks out, so that's two. And then you think back to last year, the comic books prominently displayed Lilith on the front page, but those were retracted because either the story was being redone, or there was an issue between agreement between the comic book publisher or what have you. But it was telling, so that's number 3. So this leak has a lot of legs, you could say. And it's interesting, because it seems like they're going actually way back, or they're pulling characters from way back in Sanctuary's history, going forward with the next iteration that seems to all but be confirmed with this year's BlizzCon. So where does that take us? Do I think they're going to talk about Diablo Immortal? Yes, because they, at least in the beginning, were so excited to get this out there that they were able to bring the Diablo experience proper to a mobile platform. And I still feel they have that same excitement. And if anything, I don't think they've been pushed back or scared or anything. I feel, if anything, they've taken what we've done, our reaction, and they've taken it to a call to arms to redouble their efforts. Funny. And really make sure the game is the best possible version it can be. So when it comes out, they say, we did our absolute best. This is it. Let it be judged for what it is, not what people in the peanut gallery say that it is, and go from there. It'll probably be a short segment of the Diablo section, but I feel it'll be there, and I hope it is, because for them to have been that excited, show off, have all these amazing deals, have everything, and then just kind of brush underneath the rug, it seems like they're kind of taking all the hard effort and they're kind of like, no, we're ignoring this. And that's not Blizzard, that's not the teams, that's not how they operate. And this is coming from someone who's been interacting with them for the last 7 years. As people have come and gone through Blizzard, especially with the Diablo team, it just doesn't seem their way. Moving on to the supposed Diablo 2 remaster leak rumor, most notably from I heard people call me an insider to someone who just happened to get lucky with a few other leaks for Overwatch. So, you know, take this with a giant grain of salt. Said that D2 remaster is going to be announced, and that could happen too. I mean, even though they are busy with Warcraft 3, which Reforged, and WoW Classic is still a thing, they just have to announce it. That's all they have to do. They don't have to show a year. I mean, all they have to do is show the remastered intro, a couple of in-game things if they've gotten that far, and then that's it. I mean, that's pretty much what they did with Warcraft 3 Reforged last year at BlizzCon, so just show it off, let people know you're working on it, and then over the next year and a half or so, you show progress, and then boom, you're done. It's not that difficult. So it's definitely a possibility, and frankly, it will always be possible until it's done for every BlizzCon from now until it actually gets released. Not that hard. Hopefully Diablo 3 will still get shown some future of sets. Maybe some ideas are throwing around for seasonal themes. Just to show that Diablo 3 still has, that they're doing a lot of interesting things and they're still using it as more of like a playground. Because while I personally feel I may not play that much of Season 19, they are doing more and more interesting things. They're getting further and further outside of that, what's to be expected for that box, what fits in that box for a seasonal theme, and that's fine. If I want them to do more of that. I want this game, I want Diablo 4 to be a bigger, bolder, more beautiful fucking game with blood and gore and everything else, but to be done properly and have some good thought and some good procedures and some good philosophies that are guiding this. And it's nice to know that they're getting outside of that they truly are thinking outside of the box, and they're getting there and they're doing it. And lastly, Diablo 4. And this is where I'm going to talk a little bit about Diablo 4, and then I'm going to get into like what I say that you, the listener who's listening to this, should be watching out for. Hopefully, when they announce Diablo 4, not if, but when. And I'm basically gonna reiterate like what I want for Diablo 4. But it's not going to be what you may hear Riker, who just did his top 10 things he wants to see, and what a few of the other streamers have reiterated, like Bloodshed and Big Daddy Dan and Leviathan and Lexi, and all of them may have expressed what they're looking for. Because our community has many different perspectives, many different outlooks. Some people really want competitive stuff, some people want really good PvE stuff, some people just want to be able to shoot their character down a really deep, complex building path, and those are vastly different things. And I give them much more bravado to speak upon that. So, what do I want? What I want is a feeling. I want to feel that when they show off Diablo 4, that there's no sense of rationalizing why they didn't go further. That what they showed off is going above and beyond what we could ever have thought of. I also want a feeling of not having to defend the franchise anymore. And while that sounds like such a weird thing, it's like, well, what do you mean? And there's a sense of, inevitably, and this happens a lot with other games as well, especially within our franchise, that, and granted, I'm not a streamer, so I don't have to deal with that part, like the literal part, when people come into your stream and they say, why are you playing this dead game? It's like, because I like it? Is that such a foreign concept? But there's something to that. It's like when you feel that you have to defend the game you love playing because you know deep down things could be taken further, more things could be added, simple things could be adjusted. Servers, why are they unstable? Why can't I chat in group? Why can't I invite people to a party consistently? Basic quality of life adjustments. Simple things like that. That's why I hope when they announce it and they eventually show off some stuff and the beta comes around, that we can finally put that to rest, where I want to feel like I don't have to defend why I play this game anymore. And most of all, I just want to feel excited to be a Diablo player again. It's not because I don't like playing the game. Let's not misconstrue that right off the bat. It's a fact of, even though we may not be in a maintenance mode, in a sense we are. Because all the things we get, we know we're getting. Now the sets and everything are a new thing. But I use the analogy of sets, whether the old ones or the new ones. It's like a car. We're getting a new car. It's shiny, it has XM radio, it still has the CD player though, for those of you who like CDs, myself included. It has a sunroof, it has all these upgrades that the other cars, I should say, didn't have. But eventually, after a week or so, you start getting used to it. You start making that nice little ass crack divot in the seat. You get more comfortable. You find your position. You get the CD in that you've been listening to on loop in your old car. That's now just doing the same thing there, and you get used to it. But most importantly, it doesn't really matter because you're driving on the same road to work. So your view doesn't change, where you're going doesn't change, where you come home doesn't change, but you're in a new car. And that's fine if you're into that thing. But I'm a person who would like a new road to travel. Doesn't matter if it's the old car or the new car. So where am I going with this? What's the thing equating to the new road? And that would be modes. I want new things to actually do. Because I can get a new wizard set, but if it's just a matter of doing GRs or riffs, it's the wear factor, the boredom factor, the will to play the game doing the same thing. Whether it's a new set or an old set, it's still there. But imagine if we had new sets along with new things to do. That's how I view it. That's my opinion. And I know that's infinitely harder, but I feel that's what we need. But at the same time, I acknowledge that D3 is awfully long in the tooth, and it's why a lot of things in my Development Hell article, even though I still did them because I feel they're important, I understand that most of them wouldn't happen, that they would have to go to Diablo 4 because Diablo 3, again, even though it's not maintenance mode, I still feel it still practically is unfortunately not worth the development time, because it would require too much to do, too much rework, and as we've seen recently, stability in servers, stability in communication, partying, it seems to get screwed up sometimes with these patches. But I give the classic team the utmost respect and the utmost cheers, clapping for their efforts, because they're still doing something. They're still pumping life into this game 7 years later, 7 years plus actually, and that needs to be recognized. That needs to be respected. This isn't like automatic. We're still getting all this stuff for free. I mean, they could have switched Diablo 3 to a DLC model 3 years ago, and we could still only be getting what we're getting today. So we have to acknowledge that. So we've arrived at this esoteric segment of what you should be looking out for when Diablo 4 gets announced. And you could be saying, like, Dred, like, what are you talking about? Like, I just want Diablo 4 to be announced. Like, that's all I need. But I'm like, whoa, hold on there. It's one thing to have Diablo 4 announced, but you have to understand, what are they announcing? What modes are they announcing? What systems are they showing off? What classes are they showing off? What skills? Because like I said with Immortal, they didn't show off much. They didn't tell us much, but what they did was amazing with the skill interactions. So I want, at minimum, that for Diablo 4. At minimum, I want to know what I'm looking out for is that they're steering away from rifts and greater rifts. What I'm looking for is that they're getting us back into the world of Sanctuary, and we're getting out of this system where we log into adventure mode basically forever, from season to season, and we're just hop skipping away to do bounties, to do rifts, and do greater rifts. We spend more time typically in town than we do in the world of Sanctuary, so that's why the game feels boring and small, because we're doing one of three things, and we're mainly in town. We're nowhere near in the world of Sanctuary. We're not in the dangers. We don't feel threatened. We feel like we can get away with anything, and that's an unfortunate use of the game itself and the environment, and it betrays kind of the core principle of what Diablo is. It's a dark horror fantasy game at the end of the day, and just doesn't seem that way. and that's the major component. Not because it's not dark enough, not because there's not enough blood, not because there's enough gory, but because we're overpowered, and we're in town most of the time. So we can kill anything, and we're safe in town. There you go. So I want to feel threatened when we go into the environments. I want them to show off some video of us going through new zones and everything, and just have to, like, every trap that goes off we have to be worried about. Every monster that comes out, we have to think, what's the kill order here? Because there are more important mobs to kill than others. I want there to be a sense of dread and fear and foreboding, but it conveyed through simple means of small sound effects and dark undertones, and get away from what they did with Diablo 3, which was overwhelming overtures that really conveyed but totally took you out of the environment and that sense of dread and foreboding. Because I feel small sound effects and building up and proper use of sound in the environment is so much better than just, taking everything up to 11, so to speak. So other things to look out for is, how's the multiplayer going to be? If they announce that sets are coming, are they downgrading how much power sets have, or sets going to be more of a utility deal than an actual build-centric type deal? And inversely, how do they view skills? Are they actively gonna make sure skills are good and as balanced as they can be, and each one as useful as it can be compared to the others within a class as well as in a support structure, in a grouping set? And I think one of the big tenets that I'm going to look out for, and I'm going to ask them, is what's their viewpoint on buffing and nerfing? Are they just going to not nerf anything in Diablo 4 like they basically did in Diablo 3? I mean, even though they took down the Veer's attack speed scaler for Veers in this latest patch, and they capped off the stacks to 60 for the Necromancer, it did something, but it's not the biggest hit that everyone thought initially it was going to be. It did something, but not much. And even though people hate that sense of when they may log into a character after a patch and their character is weaker, especially with Diablo 3, we have to recognize most people play seasons. So yeah, the gear may be weaker, but people are already playing the next season. That gear is just backlogged. They're not playing with that gear. And people who play non-seasons, they're gathering up so much Paragon, they're making up for it anyways. So I feel it is kind of a moot point. And if we're only going to be viewing balance through the eyes of only buffs, no nerfs, that means any problem with skills and or armor pieces will only be fixed by making everything else bigger and better. And then we basically devolve the game into this power creep session. Any sense of balance, any sense of again, how I said, we're overpowered and we're in town, we'll just become overpowered in the new Diablo 4 town. So all in all, I would say, to kind of finish up that segment, because I know I just went on like a little mini rant with my own things, but what I would say is, don't get lost in the announcement itself. Don't get lost in the big shiny things like new systems and everything they show. Kind of view the announcement. Get excited. Please, get excited. And then take 5 minutes. Watch the cinematic again. Get excited again. It's very important. Please, get excited. Because we haven't had enough of that in our community lately. So, watch it again. Do it. And then give yourself a little bit of time, and then start asking yourself, well, what's there? What isn't there? And then from what's not there, ask why isn't it there, or just build questions around that. And then when they do the Q&As and the following panels, whether it's day 1 or day 2, look out for that information. Look out on all the online sources, because there's going to be a bajillion of them, and see who's saying what, and start filling your individual knowledge banks with that knowledge. Don't let other people tell you things. Don't let other people's opinions, other streamers fill your head with like, oh, this and that and everything else, and I did. I'm like, we're all learning about it at the same time. No one has a year's worth of knowledge on it magically, and they're just telling you now. So take the time to do the research for yourself, and then believe me, whatever you come back with that's still missing after the first day and the second day, and after all the roundups from all the websites and the podcasts and the streamers, then that's when you can start asking, well, okay, this is missing, what can we take away from this? And try not to get lost, as hard as it may be, down the rabbit hole of, well, they didn't show us this because they're obviously not ready, or they're planning to do this, or it's just Activision Blizzard derping around and trying to take us for money. Like, that doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve the community. I don't do it because I feel it's morally irresponsible to do that, because just as how we as a community could be unfortunate overhypers of the community, we can be unfortunate anti-hypers of the community as well. So I try to take a lot of responsibility, just trying to be a straight shooter on things and not try to give Blizzard too much credit, but also make sure I call out the community when I feel that they're doing things a little they're overdoing it in some respects. So that's about it for the Diablo section. But for the fun stuff, everything else, it all but seems that we're gonna get a WoW expansion, every other year. And the 33,000 Shadowlands leaks, well, we'll go with something like that, I suppose, because, nothing else seems appropriate. For Heroes, it seems like they already did their big Deathwing announcement. And it also, in the vein of WoW, they also had their 8.3 announcement and showing off fantastic. And the reason why I come back to WoW after just saying the WoW expansion is because it seems like there's been a lot of clearing of information, a lot of pre-information, because it seems like with Heroes, that was their big deal. Deathwing, here he is, finally, have fun. The 8.3 information, here it is, this is what we're working on for the current game. We're getting it out there now, PTR, and we also want to get it out so when we announce the expansion, it's not such a big leap in spoiling the story, so to speak. So that's why I say an expansion is probably inevitable. And also, the PTR for Diablo 3 came out. So they don't have to necessarily go into big depth with that. So they're clearing time there. So there's more time for a Diablo 4 announcement. And then Overwatch, supposedly Overwatch 2.0, 2, whatever, if it's going to be a completely new game or a version-esque type deal. That's supposedly a big ticket item, as well as the aforementioned Diablo 2 Remastered is another big candidate for being a new thing touted. And then there's... what game am I forgetting? I know I'm forgetting one. Oh yeah, StarCraft. And it's funny because I laugh because I don't think StarCraft will have much. Maybe a commander. Who knows? Maybe if they get that much. But I feel next year and every year after that, StarCraft is going to become a bigger dark horse for potential StarCraft 3. Because with all the big announcements coming this year, the next 1 or 2 BlizzCons are going to seem almost paltry. And there could also be potential for new IP announcements as well. And, Hearthstone doing its usual thing. In fact, just before we started recording this, they announced a little teaser Twitter video saying join us November 1st. So they obviously have their last expansion for the year coming. So this year's BlizzCon, regardless of announcements, regardless of what you want, is probably going to be the biggest BlizzCon at least in the last 5 years, if not 10, that I can remember. And this will be my 7th one, and this one seems to be just chock full of just new things. We may have an idea, but we don't. And if you've gotten this far in what has been more of a stream of consciousness podcast than something that was structured and organized, I thank you, and I appreciate each and every single one of you. Because this BlizzCon is just that. It's like I'm approaching it neutral. I'm like, just show me what you got, Blizz, and I'll go from there. I'm trying not to put too much emphasis on it has to have this and it has to have that, because this BlizzCon, more than any other one, even though it's been a very important part of each BlizzCon, is just the community, just hanging out with other streamers, new people to the community, who are actually getting out there for the first time. There's going to be a couple of people there, and just hanging out with them, because BlizzCon, no matter what, no matter the scandals, whatever happens, it is a community-based event. You are there with 35, 40,000 of your fellow Blizzard gaming fans who all love the game they play, that make the trek out there, who make it their vacation, and just hang out, have fun, and just, I don't know what it is. It's like you're just there, you're present. The real world just kind of slips away. You don't have your responsibilities. You can just be yourself. You can just be a fan of the game you love and not feel ostracized from it, not feel like you have to hide it, not feel like you have to go, ugh, I have to go to work tomorrow. It's like, oh, you're off. Some people 3 days, some people like myself were there for 6 days. Like I said, we make it our vacation. And you just get to enjoy being in the presence of other like-minded individuals. And I think that's the most important part of BlizzCon. You are there with like-minded people, and you generally have the same attitudes and feelings. You may have a different perspective on things. A little tip-tap of my dog behind me on a wooden chair mats. Not gonna edit out a post. Why? Because fuck it. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what makes BlizzCon important, is the people. It's not the games. If you're going there for the game announcements, I will generally tell you you're 110% wrong. Stay home, get the virtual ticket. That's why if you're angry, you didn't spend $1,500 going there getting upset. You only spent $50. But with that, wow, managed to get almost 40 minutes out of that. I will see you on the other side of BlizzCon. I hope you enjoy. I hope you watch each of the 4 first mystery panels, which are free, have been added to the free section of the virtual ticket. So don't forget about that. It's not just the opening ceremony and the esports. It's also the first 4 panels on the first day, those mystery panels that you can also watch. And remember, get excited. Restrain that urge to just balls out, get angry if you feel it. Take time to take critical thinking, and I will see you on the other side. Hopefully we will all be enthralled, excited. Can't wait to play Diablo, Diablo 2, Diablo Immortal, Diablo 3, and hopefully Diablo 4. Who knows? Maybe we'll even get more. Maybe Diablo. Here's a thought. What would happen if we got everything? That would mean Diablo has more stuff going for it than even World of Warcraft. Would it not be a thing? Think about that. Alright, folks. I've gone on long enough. You've dealt with me talking to the breeze long enough. Have a good night. Keep hacking and slashing.